There is going to be mentions of suicide later on in this video, so if a topic like that makes you feel uneasy, do not hesitate to click off.
Warning. Proceeding without caution will bring you into spoiler territory for the media displayed on screen. Timestamps are gifted in the description and comment section. Viewer discretion is advised.
I don't know. I liked it. The Woman in the Yard is a movie that I've wanted to see for about a month or two, ever since I saw this short, maybe like 20 or 30-second teaser at the beginning of a movie that I saw, where basically it just showed the titular woman in the yard. Just a woman in all black sitting out in the yard. I don't even really recall if there was much lines of dialogue. Maybe there was the, oh, who is this woman? I don't know. But it was just like very short, kind of gave a sense of mystery, didn't explain anything, and that was enough for me to go, oh, this looks neat, and put it on my watch list. And then, of course, when I saw this 3C video and I read the title and the thumbnail, I thought, well, I'm more intrigued. I know I make jokes about being a contrarian. That's mostly just because I've been told that I hate everything popular, even though that's very much obviously not true. But, like, I was already interested in the movie. Seeing that people hated it naturally makes me want to go see it even more just to see, why do people maybe hate this? Is it really that bad? Who knows? I don't like being someone that just jumps onto a bandwagon without actually, like, seeing it and forming my own opinion, you know? I used to do that when I was a stupid little teenager, and I'm embarrassed of it. We don't talk about what I was doing when The Last of Us 2 came out. But also, 3 of the movies off my watch list came out. It was this one, A Working Man, and Death of a Unicorn. And this was the one that was the most interesting to me. So I went and got a ticket, and I watched it yesterday as of me recording this. And like I already said, I liked it. I've tried to talk about, like, the plot and give, like, a synopsis or, like, a walkthrough of what happens in this movie. But it just kind of goes all over the place. At least me trying to explain it. So, as usual, I think I'm just going to give my thoughts. This is probably going to make absolutely zero sense if you haven't seen the movie. So, if you want to watch it, go ahead. If you want to just stick around and get everything spoiled to you, and probably be insanely confused on what the hell I'm talking about, feel free. So yeah, basically, like I said, I like the movie. I think the concept that it had based off of that teaser works pretty well with this, of course, woman in the yard, just staring at the children. She is very fucking creepy. Like, I'm not gonna lie. A woman just sitting in the yard and, like, occasionally getting closer or just, like, not moving. And then, like, when you look away, she, like, moves, like, weeping angel type shit. That's always gonna be creepy to me. I think the overall story was pretty interesting, with the mother dealing with the grief of her husband and then also the stress of, one, being a single mother, but also having to raise 2 children, especially one that's an absolute fucking brat. Like, I cannot imagine going into my mom's room as she's, like, trying to wake up and opening up the fucking blinds and blinding her with the sunlight and then demanding to call the power company to get the power back on. I just can't imagine the disrespect. Or calling her a bitch. That's insane. But later in the movie, you do find out that she's had this dress for a while. You get little hints in the beginning of what happened to the husband. Basically, car crash killed him. But then you find out later on, when she has to tell the truth to her son about what actually happened that night, that she was behind the wheel, that she caused the death of her husband. So I guess that also causes more grief. I say I guess because when you find out some other things at the end of the movie, it kind of reshaped my viewpoint on this whole scenario, but we'll get into that a little later. I think the pacing was pretty good. I think the acting was overall pretty good. Apologies if I butcher these names. As usual, I'm going to try my best to pronounce them. I think Denielle Deadwyler was pretty good. I think she gave some pretty good scenes, some pretty good acting. There wasn't any moment where I thought she was bad. I think even Peyton Jackson and Estella Kahiha were also pretty good, especially Estella, given how more younger she is. There wasn't any moment where, you know, it was like the dreaded, oh, child acting. I think she did pretty good in the movie. It was kind of that moment between her and the mom where she just, like, brings up the dad's death. That was, like, kind of a neat scene. She was also pretty comforting to the mom, basically being like, do you want to live here? You know, if you don't, that's fine. And then, I very much apologize beforehand. This is going to be a tough one for me to pronounce. Okwui Okpokwasili? I think she was really good as the woman, honestly. I thought she gave a really creepy performance at times. I thought her voice really worked for it. A lot of the movie relies on her just sitting in a chair and not really seeing her face. I think she does well during that. I think she does well during the scenes where her face isn't covered up. She works well as the creepy figure that she's supposed to be. And I guess Russell Hornsby was good. I guess he's got like 2 scenes, and one of them is just a phone recording that's repeated like 7 times in the movie. But yeah, like all the actors were great in my opinion. I also really like the cinematography. I thought there were a lot of really cool shots in the movie. Some very interesting camera directions. The ones that come to my mind right now are the scene where the mom is digging up the chain to try to find the dog and is digging through the ground. And yeah, it's in a lot of Dutch angles, which of course is the first thing I fucking noticed. But like, I thought it was kind of cool, just the way it was shot. I also like this one scene where you're looking through a window at the woman in the yard, and then the face of the mom kind of starts reflecting through the window or like fading in, and then like it to me it looked like her nose was in the placement of the woman. I thought that was kind of a cool shot. I also liked how during like the climax of the movie where the woman's actually like attacking the house, the way they used the shadows was really fucking cool. Like the way the shadows are creeping around the wall, when the shadows move over a bunch of things on a table, let's say, the stuff on the table starts knocking off, and she's like basically being able to control things in the house while not actually being in it and just using the shadows. I think that was some cool visual work. And as a horror movie, I think it worked really well. At least for me, it worked really fucking well on me. I think I've said this before. Probably my best guess is going to be when I reviewed The Killing Joke. I have this thing about me where if I get scared enough, I start to tear up. That usually tells me I'm like genuinely fucking scared out of my mind. I don't know where this comes from. It's just always happened my entire life. But that happened in this movie. I can't remember what was happening in the movie, but I just remember at some point I started having tears and I was like, all right, I'm like genuinely scared. And I knew I was also very scared and very tense and very full of fear when I was just trying to dig myself as deep as I could into my chair. I was like sinking deeper and deeper into my seat the more the climax was going. There were a fair bit of scenes that were very tense and suspenseful for me. In terms of the feeling of suspense, it kind of reminded me of Sinister. I'm not trying to compare the two movies. I'm just saying personally for me and the suspense I was feeling, I can only remember feeling that kind of suspense while watching Sinister. We also get some, like, vision sequences. Like, I think probably the first instance of a vision sequence, I could be wrong, but the one that I remember, I feel like there might have at least been one before this, but the one I can remember at least is the mom going off on the daughter for not being able to write the R properly because she's so full of stress and all that. You know, I get it. She broke. She snapped. But then she apologizes. She hugs the daughter, she's looking in a mirror, and the next thing you know, she stabs her daughter, and then it cuts back to reality, and she actually stabbed a pillow. That was one of those, like, jarring moments for me, but I think it was also good in a way of showing that there are going to be scenes in the movie where you can't really believe what you're seeing, which plays into around the climax where there's this kind of trippy, kind of makes no sense at all scene where the mom is trying to follow the voice of her daughter to find her, and she goes into this, like, metallic-looking hallway that my first thought was, like, how is this in the house? Where the fuck was this? But she follows into this, and then she comes out of a mirror, and then she's in the video from the beginning of the movie, of the last recording with her husband, the, you know, line about him talking about the most amazing dream he ever had. You know, she kind of succumbs to it, you know, happy to see her husband, and then eventually realizes that, like, this isn't real, tries to get up, the husband, you know, throws something over her head and suffocates her. Then she's now the woman in the yard having the conversation with herself towards the beginning of the movie about, like, why are you here? You hear her say, like, the line, how did I get here? Which you heard the woman say at the beginning of during that initial interaction. And then she ends up back into the attic where it's again the scene that we saw with the actual woman from the yard going up to the daughter before taking her and before, like, this whole fucking sequence started, to where now it's the mom going to the daughter, and then it goes to something else, and then it's like flashbang back to actual reality where she's just sitting on a, bed with her daughter. It's really weird, kind of trippy, doesn't make much sense, but for me personally, it's one of those cases where I liked that it doesn't make much sense, and I liked that I don't entirely understand it. It's hard for me to explain the difference or, like, where I draw the line between the two, but it's just entirely based off of my own feeling and how I feel about these kinds of things. But there's a difference between not understanding it and it not making sense because I think it's just poorly written, and it doesn't make much sense to me because I might be too stupid to understand it, or that was just kind of the point. Like, I've seen a lot of movies where shit just happens that doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Quite honestly, just anything Evangelion. But I still enjoy it. I still like it. I don't know. This was one of those cases where it's like, this is kind of trippy, kind of weird. It's not entirely explained how this is working, except for probably just it's a vision sequence. And I liked it. This basically all comes to the final moment in the movie, the final climax, the ending, the part that, from what I understand, is where everyone hates this movie, is where you find out what this woman is, how she's basically the kind of physical embodiment of the dark side or the dark corners of the mother's mind and her basically suicidal thoughts. This kind of leads up with when the mom gets out of bed at the beginning. She says, "Give me the strength." When the son goes and gets his dad's gun, he finds out all the bullets are gone and there's only one in the chamber. Then you get to the scene and you find out that the woman is just the embodiment of the dark corners of this mom's mind, and she says, you threw all the bullets out, but you kept one in the chamber. You've been saying, "Give me the strength." I am the strength. Not for you to overcome this, but for you to actually do it. This builds up to this moment where the mom is like, "I'm not going to, because my children need a mother." The woman says they've needed a mother for weeks, but you've just locked yourself in the room. She asks, are my children going to be fine? And the woman changes the photos of the children, be like, "Here's your daughter, graduate with," I assumed looked like the father to me. Could have been the older brother. I don't know. But it basically shows that the children will be happy. Basically convincing the mom that, like, you can do this. Your children will be fine. The mom says that she wants to at least say goodbye. The woman allows her, which I think is kind of nice, at least for her. But the mom gets the children away, tells them to leave the farm. She goes in the barn, gets the gun ready. Her daughter gave her little stuffed penguin. That is important to note. She's in the barn. She's getting the gun ready. She's not really even doing it. It's mostly the woman controlling her to get the gun in position. She's staring at a mirror as this is happening. She stares at the penguin, and then everything just goes quiet. We get some shots of outside the house, the farm and everything's just quiet. And then this is basically the point where I'm thinking, did she do it? Did she not do it? If she did it, I'm probably not going to like this. Because it does seem really fucked up to just, do that. But we get this moment where the scene continues, and the mom leaves the barn. Her children run up to her. Everything's fine. She gives the stuffed penguin back to her daughter. I think says something about, the penguin helped. They go back onto the porch. The power comes back on, lights are on, everything's fine. I think the son asks, like, is the woman ever going to be back? And the mom's like, "Not today, but if she does, we'll be ready." And then that's the end of the movie. And a lot of people apparently hate this scene. And I feel like that's only if you think that she did kill herself, which I do want to say, when I was leaving the theater, I overheard a guy talking to his mom, at least I assumed it was his mom, about how he was thinking that this was like a conspiracy kind of thing, and like, maybe she did actually do it and she's in the afterlife, or whatever his reasoning was. I was already away from them to be able to hear the rest of what he was saying, because I'm trying to figure out in my mind how I feel about this ending. Personally, I don't think she did it. I feel like she overcame the darkness. I feel like the penguin helped her. The penguin reminded her of her daughter and her children. And I feel like she was getting deep to the point where she was going to allow herself to do this, but then overcame it. I feel like The scene of the woman showing her that the children will be fine was just a way of manipulating her into actually doing this. The children obviously would not be fine. I mean, they already lost their dad. If they lose their mom, they're gonna be full-blown fucking orphans, and it's gonna fucking give them so much goddamn trauma, dude. But I can understand how you can get into that mindset where you are kind of selfish. You do kind of think that, maybe they'll be fine without me. And when you have this dark corner of your mind that is telling you to do this, and you let it overcome, and you let it actually, control you, basically, like the woman's doing during this whole sequence, then yeah, you start believing shit that's just not true. I think, personally, if they did play a gunshot, it would be confirmed that she did kill herself, but because they didn't, and then they did show that she left and is with the kids, at least to me, I felt like she just didn't do it and she overcame. And I feel like that line of dialogue as well of oh, is she ever going to come back? Not today. If she does, we'll be ready. I think also feels into the fact that she didn't do it, that she did overcome that dark corner and that those thoughts to not end up doing it. She won't come today because I've already fucking dealt with this today. If she does come back and I do have these thoughts again, I'll be ready to go up against it. That's personally how I took the scene. I don't think she did it. I think it ended on a more nicer note. But again, that's just the way I took it. But remember what I said about the car crash? During that scene, you get the glimpse of the woman before the crash happens. So because of this ending, I feel like that scene was her trying to commit suicide as well. I feel like that was probably her trying to kill herself or kill her husband as well. It ended up failing, obviously, or at the very least, it failed her trying to kill herself. But I think it was also, really, honestly, that woman showing up during that scene is just another instance of, the dark corner of her mind. She let that take control. Editor Alex here. I feel like what I was trying to say is that I feel like she was kind of drifting more into that dark corner of her mind, and that's why the woman appears. And then next thing she knows, she's in front of an oncoming car, then the accident happens. It could be that she was trying to do this on purpose, or more that she was thinking of doing it, got lost into those dark thoughts from being unhappy, and then this unfortunately happened. And I feel like probably the woman even appearing that during that day is probably just her letting that dark corner take more control over her because of her being surrounded in grief and her being so stressed out and her being so tired. Again, being a single mom, having to raise 2 children, being on a farm, and just not being happy, which she was never happy because it's explained that, during or before the car crash, she was on a date with the husband and basically tells him, I'm not happy. You're happy. The kids are happy. I'm not. But that's just the way I see it. I feel like the woman was just the embodiment of that dark corner. I mean, I know that's literally what she says in the movie, but I feel like when that woman shows up, it's more because of the mom letting that dark corner start taking control and start getting bigger in her mind. That it manifests to this point. That's why she shows up during the car crash. That's why she shows up in this movie. And then that's why the whole ending happens until basically she doesn't let it fully overcome and she doesn't commit. With all that being said, though, I have one problem with this movie, and that's how goddamn loud it is. Because holy fuck. Now, yes, it has its cheap jump scares that fucking any modern horror movie's gonna have, and I don't like it, even if I did fall for a couple of them, because that's out of my control. I scare easily, just ask my dad. But that wasn't really my biggest problem. My problem was just there's a lot of parts in this movie that I feel like were so unnecessarily loud. Like, the first jump scare is when the son opens up the windows, whatever. When she's in the kitchen and she starts, having visions of the accident and the car crash. I get why they would want to make it loud because it's impactful, but I feel like just mix-wise, it's too fucking loud. And personally for me, it was just giving what I can best explain to be just sensory overload. There were just moments that I wanted to just, curl into my seat because just the loudness and the noise of everything was just piercing my fucking ears, and I was like, can you not? I don't need the car crash to be as loud as this is. I don't need the ball bouncing from the wall and the floor to be as loud as it is. And my biggest problem was at the very end of the movie after all of this, after the whole scene, after they're already into the house and everything, the camera pans to this painting and then the name, and then it goes into credits. And while this is happening, there's the music playing, and it's loud, but it's not loud in terms of the way the orchestra's playing. Like, in the best way I can describe it, it's not loud in terms of velocity, it's loud in terms of volume. Like, it's not loud because that's how the people played it, and it's not loud because that's how it was written and composed and how the
conductor
directed the orchestra to play it this way. It's loud because it feels like the editor put the song into the movie, went to the volume knob, cranked that shit to max to when it's peaking in the red, and then just called it a day because, oh, it's loud, therefore it's scary. And, like, that was the part where it's like, can you turn the fucking music down? It does not need to be blaring in my ears. I know theaters can be loud, but, like, goddamn, this is absurd. That was pretty much my one problem with the movie, is I feel like there's a lot of points where it's just shit is so unnecessarily loud. A lot of stuff should be mixed way more down. I get you're trying to scare the audience with loud noises, which is fucking really generic, but, like, I can handle it with jump scares. It's another thing when it feels like every other sound effect, or like the end of the movie where it's like, this is the end of the movie. It's not even supposed to be scary anymore. Why is the music cranked to fucking 11? But that's basically it. That was my one problem with the movie. Everything else, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I like the acting, I like the story, I like the writing, I like the cinematography. How far I've come to praise cinematography. I thought there were some cool ass shots. I thought the directing was good. I thought it played well with its concept. And honestly, I didn't really hate the ending. But that's also because I didn't assume that she killed herself. I thought that she was fine. But that's just the way I took the scene. If you thought that she did kill herself, or in general, regardless, you just don't like how they portrayed it, that's perfectly valid. I get it. You're valid to have that opinion. You're valid to have those thoughts. Just personally for me, I thought it was handled well enough. I thought it was good. And I also don't think that she did it. But overall, that's basically it. The Woman in the Yard. It's not one of my favorite movies of the year. To be fair, we're only on, like, what, now the 4th month of the year, and there's only, like, one movie I would qualify on that list. But I still liked it. I would recommend this movie. The only thing is just how fucking loud everything is. If you're, like, prone to, like, sensory overload, or just, like, don't really like very loud noises, probably sit this one out. And like the disclaimer said, if topics of suicide gets you a little uneasy, I'd also sit this movie out. But overall, like I've said enough times already, I like the movie. I don't think it was that bad. I enjoyed it. Actually, I can't really say that I enjoyed it because of how goddamn tense and fearful I was at times. But I think that's a good thing, because it's a fucking horror movie. And if a horror movie can scare me, it did its purpose. And that's saying something, because I don't think I've seen a lot of horror movies, but the ones I have not managed to scare me or leave me as tense or suspense or fearful as this one did, outside of, like, Sinister. But yeah, enough rambling on. I like the movie. I'd recommend it. I don't think it's that bad. I don't know how to end videos as usual. See ya.
And of course, everyone has their own opinion, but my opinion is the best opinion. I'm sure you figured that out already.
Could I have a subscriber, please?